Welcome to Bloodbath and Beyond. Today we review the horror comedy Strippers vs. Werewolves.
Directed by Jonathan Glendening, starring Adele Silva, Billy Murray, and Martin Compston, Strippers vs. Werewolves is about a stripper who accidentally kills a werewolf who happened to be the head of a pack, and now the pack wants revenge. And so strippers have to face off against werewolves. So what do we like?
I actually enjoyed the look of the werewolves in this movie. I thought it was going to be a little too cheesy, but they pulled it off. Like, it wasn't like a fake mask. Like, they did a really good job with the makeup to keep like the facial features of their human form and their lichen form.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan. Like, it could have been worse, though.
Yeah.
I think the makeup and, like, prosthetics were well done. I don't think I love the creature look, but, you know, it is a horror comedy, so they weren't trying to be, like, some scary-ass werewolves. So, you know, it was pretty decent. I did like the rest of the special effects, though. We did have, like, lots of really solid blood, and any of the practical effects that we see throughout the film were really well done.
I thought the acting in this film was good as well. We have strong female characters in the strippers, and we have a wild bunch of male werewolves. Like, we had a different variety, which was nice because they could play off of each other, and it created interesting character development, I thought.
Speaking of the acting, we also had a pretty brief cameo by Robert Englund out of nowhere, and he was really solid in what he did. He was just kind of like a really dark and more badass Robert Englund than I've seen in a lot of movies, especially considering like the tone of this film. As you may imagine, being that this is strippers versus werewolves, we have a bunch of hot chicks. Lots of beautiful ladies stripping, and we do get lots of nudity, so that's fantastic.
I enjoyed that mythology was normal in the realm of this film. Like, it didn't seem like it was out of place for like a werewolf to just be like chilling, and they had like vampires and ghouls and stuff. But I like the fact that they just had Sinclair, this really nerdy Van Helsing-like character who just tied it all together. I liked this character. He was funny, he was to the point, and he hunted down some pretty sweet-looking vampires.
I wish we had a little bit more of him, but yes, he was awesome. I really like the style of this movie. Not only was it shot well and lit well throughout, but the editing was fantastic. They would often kind of split the screen and have two different scenes going on simultaneously, and sometimes three, sometimes four. And then they would throw in some kind of like 80s or early 90s music. Sometimes they'd make people cartoons briefly. It was just really interesting, and you wouldn't expect it from this kind of movie.
On that note, the music was very awesome in this film. It was like hilarious, fun-going party music.
Okay, now what didn't we like? I want to kick it off with the most glaring issue about this film that's called Strippers vs. Werewolves, is there's not a huge battle between strippers and werewolves. I mean, there is something closer to the end, but it lasts only a few minutes. They do have like a counter saying, okay, one for the strippers, one for the werewolves, but there's no impact whatsoever when one of them is taken out.
Throughout the entire movie, neither of them know who each other are. So there's no appreciation for like a stripper versus a werewolf. Though we did have some nice practical and special effects in this film, the visual effects were not really up to par. We had very poor compositing throughout the film when it came to explosions.
To touch on the battle between the strippers and the werewolves, once again, we saw all the girls making all these cool weapons, and then they didn't really come into play. When any of the strippers or werewolves like attacked each other, we didn't really see anything. Like, yes, we did see some blood, but that's about it. There wasn't actually like any gore in this movie.
Even if you're gonna do a comedy, have like the strippers attack the werewolves with stereotypical stripper moves. I didn't see one person swing on a pole and like scissor kick anyone. Now, it was cool to see Robert Englund in this film, and I did enjoy his cameo. I was a little disappointed with how they executed his cameo because I was kind of expecting more from it. Like, they built his character up to being someone who was gonna maybe show up at the end or join the wolfpack, and it didn't happen, which was kind of disappointing.
Now it's time for our final thoughts and ratings. This movie had a lot of potential, but for some reason, there wasn't enough strippers versus werewolves, considering the amount of strippers and werewolves that we had in this movie. The climax came way too late in the film, and it didn't deliver. Unfortunately, we didn't have the grand battle that we expected, especially considering the cover and the title. The acting was pretty well done throughout, and I thought the editing was great, but there was nothing that really kept my attention. So I'm gonna give this 2.5 silver-tipped stilettos out of 5.
Strippers vs. Werewolves was a movie that had some serious potential. We had a pretty boring story, again with potential, as they had a Romeo and Juliet thing going on, and they wasted that. They wasted a lot of opportunities in this film, and I was really disappointed in that. But the acting was good, the practical effects were nice, and we did get to see some pretty sweet nudity, so that's okay. So that being said, I'm gonna give this 2.5 Wolfman's Got Nards out of 5.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film. And if you haven't seen it and you want to check it out, check out the description. We've got links where you can find it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel to stay updated with our reactions, reviews, and games of What Would You Do.